Within the collective belief systems of Western society, the difference between what we perceive to be reality and what we see as art, film, and literature is vast. However, the truth of the matter is difficult for most to grasp, especially for those plagued by an unforgiving strain of naivety, inhibiting any chance for critical, independent thinking. The reality may be that the line of separation is nearly non-existent. Most people roll their eyes and scoff at such a concept, but it's no different than the reemergence of New Age beliefs such as the law of attraction, manifestation, and predictive programming. For instance, we know that everything in our material world is made up of atoms that vibrate rapidly at certain frequencies, and when grouped appear physical. Their electromagnetic properties connect with the electrical impulses that flow throughout our nervous system and up into the neurological. Our thoughts work in the same manner with electrical impulses affecting our entire body. For example, when we feel stressed, our thinking tends to be quite negative, which gives us feelings of unease. If we continue to be stressed without doing anything about it, our bodies can become sick as a result, causing disease or disease. This explains how people who have an optimistic state of mind are typically very healthy individuals. Their positive thoughts or electrical impulses also attract other similar electromagnetic impulses from outside the body. Our bodies act like tuning forks, where if someone who puts out a stronger frequency or vibration is near us, we can not only feel it but become influenced by it and begin to vibrate at the same frequency. In other words, energy flows where the attention goes. So what would happen if a large number of people began focusing on the same thing? Albert Einstein said our thoughts and imagination are previews for life's coming attractions. We manifest our reality from our thoughts and our inner core beliefs. So if your inner core beliefs are not aligned with what you're focusing on, the reality you manifest will likely not be in your favor. It's all theory and no action, all talk and no walk or writing checks your broke ass can't cash. It's an unbalanced way of living that begins in the mind with each thought. When a collective has a similar unbalance, the physical results can be quite alarming. For example, look at our world today. With recent traumatic events such as 9/11, the economic crisis of 2008, and everything consequential to the pandemic, as well as the genetic memories of past historic events, our collective has an overwhelming amount of suppressed trauma. That suppression has manifested itself into a collective shadow that has infiltrated our reality. What we've been taught and led to believe is that outer space is infinite and consists of many galaxies and systems, so it is considered ignorant and, well, a little arrogant to believe we are the only intelligent life forms. And that's merely in what we call outer space. It would be even more so to think of ourselves as the only intelligent beings within the space we inhabit. We, humans, have been conditioned to think retroactively when it comes to what is deemed as metaphysical or pseudoscience. Thanks to technocratic globalists who own and finance corporations, the media, educational systems, and such, science has been forced down our throats to the point where we believe it as absolute fact, despite seeing its many holes and contradictions. Most people still live by the false notion of seeing is believing, where if we can't experience it with our limited senses, it can't be real. Such people seem to forget or simply neglect things such as radio waves and Wi-Fi. We can only see the visible light spectrum, which is a tiny percentage of the entire electromagnetic spectrum. We can see and perceive each other because the atoms that make up each of us vibrate at similar frequencies within the visible light spectrum. Who's to say there aren't other beings that vibrate at much faster or lower frequencies? For better understanding, imagine a ceiling fan. When it is moving slowly, we can see each blade, but the faster it gets, the more invisible the blades become. This is essentially how energy, meaning frequencies within the electromagnetic spectrum, works. Could there be other entities around us that we simply cannot perceive? It is more than likely. But could these beings or entities have any kind of influence on us? As for extraterrestrials, the widely accepted conceptions of alien life come from a more positive viewpoint that involves two key traits. The first is a high-level technology that has not only allowed their race to travel great distances, but has freed them from the need for aggression towards other species. The second key trait is an expanded mental capacity or enlightenment through which aliens have achieved cooperation with other races. The first key trait we can find in movies such as E.T. the Extraterrestrial and Close Encounters of the Third Kind, whereas the second we can see in any episode of Star Trek, where there's peaceful interspecies interaction and/or psychic abilities. Enlightened aliens are an inherently optimistic reflection of humanity. It's our best qualities extrapolated into the far future, our best hope for ourselves. Unfortunately, however, it is not likely. Instead of looking up into the stars, we should look at our earthly species, particularly the vast number of insects and parasitic creatures, with their seemingly unreal ways of survival. With this in consideration, it's far more likely for us to stumble across something very different from what we've seen in movies, family-oriented and made by Steven Spielberg, but very similar to something that is already happening on Earth, yet we forget or are not even aware of its existence. First, however, we must review what we perceive as outer space. Outer space doesn't necessarily mean it's beyond Earth, but could be within any space outside of ourselves. Chances are, we will unintentionally discover one or two extraterrestrial beings that don't fly around in shiny crafts of out-of-this-world technology. Odds are they will be filthy, primal, parasitic monstrosities that use similar ways of survival as the insects and microscopic viruses found on Earth. It's the same microscopic parasitic viruses whose very survival is contingent on their biological takeover of a host in the exploitation of its host species. But imagine a microscopic virus grown to be as big as a human adult, or perhaps bigger. The fact is, these creatures could already be here on Earth, eradicating our species in secret, while hiding in the best place for them to evolve and take over the world with no one ever noticing. In deep contrast to the optimistic conceptions, these beings would penetrate our bodies in a vile form, making it the ultimate pessimistic conception. Many different species of wasps act as parasitic puppet masters. They camp out beside a spider's web, apparently waiting for a young spider to stray from its colony. The wasps may prefer juveniles because of their softer shells and less feisty natures. The wasp then lays its larvae either in or on the spider's back. Once there, it starts feeding on the arachnid's abdomen. As the larva grows, it starts to control the spider's brain, inducing it to create a different web than it normally creates. The parasitized orb weavers spin a web just before the wasp larvae transform into adults and kill the spider. The wasp larvae induce the spiders to build a modified resting web, as it would create a safer environment for the larvae to transform, just as a resting web creates the perfect conditions for the spider to molt. With these parasitic wasps, scientists suggest that this control over the spider could be caused by the wasp larvae injecting hormones into the spider, which mimic hormones that control the spider's molting behavior. In effect, the spiders have been drugged by the wasps into doing their bidding. Most wasps are solitary. They are almost all predatory, and many tens of thousands of species are parasites or parasitoids. The difference here is that a true parasite doesn't usually kill its host or render it sterile, whereas a parasitoid always does, and often consumes it too. Almost all adult wasps feed on nectar, but larvae need protein to grow and develop, so the adults prey on invertebrates like other insects and spiders to feed their young. Creatures like this do indeed exist, and according to legends and mythologies from nearly every part of the world, have been here for a very long time. Many have heard of alien, reptilian, or insectoid beings possessing humans, particularly those in power, thanks to the research and work of people such as David Icke. But many people brush this off as ludicrous, not being able to fathom an invisible being having the ability to manipulate or brainwash a human being. Now what if, instead of this parasitic creature feeding on the physical body of its host, it fed on negative human emotion? Negative energies such as anger, guilt, jealousy, depression, frustration, anxiety, and most of all, fear. And once these emotions have become so intense for so long, the parasite has full possession of its host, you. As a result of this possession, the host, you, is no longer in control, while the parasite leads you to become homeless, diagnosed as schizophrenic or mentally ill, committed indefinitely to a psych ward, or even to suicide. In other words, a vile of the human mind. Whether these are seen as aliens, demons, fallen angels, jinn, interdimensional beings, or evil spirits, they have been here for millennia and can be found within ancient texts such as the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Apocrypha, the 72 Gaidia demons of Solomon's Temple, and the Nag Hammadi codices. This library holds the ancient wisdom of Gnosticism, which predates all major religions before Egyptian, Maya, Toltec, and Aztec civilizations, the continents of Atlantis and Lemuria, the great civilizations of Antarctica and Africa, all the way back to the very foundations of the world. The term Gnostic comes from the Greek gnosis, meaning direct spiritual knowledge. The Gnostics are the seers, initiates, and shamans among humanity. They can make contact through gnosis with the one true reality. The parasitic creatures are what the Gnostics call archons. They cause delusions in people's thinking by convincing their victims to believe things that are not true. Gnostics call these archons parasites because they, in essence, live inside the minds of human beings. They steal psychic and life energy from human beings as they slowly devour their hosts. They're aliens because they're not indigenous to this planet, but have existed before there were human beings on this planet. These parasites serve people lies and instill false realities, while they feed off the negative energies of people. The archons are also said to be aliens from those with clairvoyant sight and physically resemble many of the popular images the public has of extraterrestrials: small bodies, large heads, enormously large eyes, sometimes appearing fish-like or reptilian. Since archons are unable to create, they can only distort or invert things, which is why nearly everything in our world today seems upside down. They are duplicating reality, so when we buy into it, when we come to believe that the duplicated false state reality is the real reality, then they become the victors. In the Gnostic text on the origin of the world, it is affirmed that the archons are like aborted fetuses since they do not have spirit. The archons use mind control techniques or psychological warfare, but archontic manipulation far surpasses anything the United States, Russia, Vatican City, Israel, or the United Kingdom has of yet invented. They are the ultimate brainwashers, who keep people distracted with pornography and drugs, sports and alcohol, material possessions, exotic vacations, artificial reality, addiction to various pleasures, along with dreams of the artificial technological paradise of radical life extension, transhumanism, nootropics, and brain-computer interfaces. This is done so humanity does not have the time or opportunity to observe what is happening in the world. Understanding what it means to be human, according to ancient Gnostics, is when such manipulative extraterrestrials become revealed. Such beings seek to confuse a critical appreciation among human beings of their essence as intelligent, sentient beings. However, if one can appreciate the essence of what it means to be human, archontic beings are revealed by subtracting that essence from an alien shadow that seeks to occupy the same time-space with the human essence. The alien shadow can be compared to a parasitic virus, which latches onto healthy cells in a body in a manner that debilitates those healthy cells toward their prospective destruction. Gnostics detected these parasitic archons as artificial intelligence that pursues an agenda of pure ego. But there is hope for humanity, for other alien races are also here and have our backs. That is, if we are worth saving. Gnostics preached that there was an invasion that had occurred about 3600 BC and about 1600 years before the Nag Hammadi texts were buried. They wrote that this invasion was like a virus and they were hard-pressed to describe it. The beings that were invading were called archons. These beings could duplicate reality to fool us. They were jealous of us because we have an essence of some kind, a soul, the power to create, and the ability to show love and empathy. Archons cannot comprehend these human characteristics because they don't possess them. The computer games and digital special effects of today's media, as well as all works of art, music, and literature, demonstrate the creative power of human beings. It is so important to realize that Gnosticism is about artificial reality and its collision with the real world. The artificial reality is the world of advertising, political propaganda, the degenerate society of materialism, addiction, and so on. It also includes the growing theory that we are living within a simulation. While it is an interesting concept, whether it is true or not is irrelevant when seeing what it is being used for. You are a free soul, and therefore you must choose carefully what you think. Sometimes it is necessary to deny the evidence of your eyes, ears, and senses. Continue to focus on what is beautiful and good, even while the whole world appears to be falling apart all around you. If you do this, you will find that, eventually, your outer world will match an experience with your inner thoughts and imagination.